All right. Welcome, everybody. Seeing everybody roll in. Okay, as we're all joining, I'm just going to go over a little bit of housekeeping. So, if you have a question today, please use the Q&A. It's at the bottom of your screen to post a question. Or even if you have a comment, you can use Q&A for that. The chat can get unruly and we can miss important information or questions. So we want to put everything in the Q&A section so we don't miss a comment or a question. But we'll make sure that we get to those so that they're all answered live. This will be recorded and we will be sending out information to everybody afterwards. If you signed up and you're not here, you'll also get a copy. Carly, did you have a question? You just wanted to raise your hand? All right. So let's get to it. Today, everyone's joined how to profitably add CMMC compliance consulting to your MSP services. So how you can deliver impactful CMMC compliance consulting without losing your shirt. And those are the two key things here, guys. You want to make sure, first of all, that you are delivering something that is going to be impactful. So this is serious. Tens of millions of dollars of contracts hang in the balance of you doing this properly. But because doing this properly does require a lot of effort, you want to make sure that you don't lose your shirt on this. Sometimes organizations think that I can do it for this small cost. And then in order to do it right, you have to put a lot more effort in it than you thought. So make sure that you build all this right from the beginning. And we're going to talk about how to do that right today. So what exactly are we going to cover? We're going to talk about the line between MSP services and compliance consulting, the key components of compliance consulting that you want to make sure you include in your offering, how to avoid risks associated with MSP and compliance consulting, and how to deliver compliance consulting profitably and impactfully. If you're here today and you don't know me, really quick, I'm Leia Shilobod. I am the founder of CompliancyIT. We used to be Intech Solutions until we rebranded in 2024 because people got confused when I kept saying, we do things according to these standards and security and processes and compliance. And they said, I just want you to fix my computers. I said, you're in the wrong place. So we changed the name of the company to CompliancyIT. We actually I speak around the country. I was actually just in Rhode Island yesterday at the CMMC Northeast Summit about CMMC compliance and about security and IT operations. I also teach MSPs and consultants how to implement and maintain cybersecurity compliance programs. We're an RPO, and I'm a CCP and also a CISM, which was my favorite thing to study forever. And I'm the creator of the CMMC IT Documentation Toolkit, which is a how to implement and maintain a CMMC compliance program, and also the author of Cyber Warfare. So quick poll. This is audience participation. Get ready to raise your hand. What's your current model for delivering CMMC compliance consulting? Do you have a paid and defined program that clients are currently giving you money for? Raise your hand. Couple people. All right. Are you currently just delivering kind of off the cuff guidance while you're delivering your MSP services? Some people doing that too. Okay. Or you haven't really had a serious conversation with any of your clients at all having to do with CMMC compliance. Okay. At least we got some people who are honest. All right. So let's figure out, are you actually delivering consulting services for free? Have you done any of these things recently? Have you explained what a NIST 800-171 control really means? Have you been telling your client if they're compliant or ready for assessment? Have you been designing the client's CUI enclave infrastructure, or if it's the whole enterprise, their entire enterprise architecture to protect CUI? Are you recommending certain security tools because they quote unquote meet the controls? Have you helped a client decide what systems are in scope for CMMC? Have you helped them interpret assessment findings or gaps? Have you been advising on documentation requirements? Well, if you have, you've been providing CMMC compliance consulting. And the important thing is that you don't cross that line if it's not under the scope of your MSP services, because the line between MSP services and compliance consulting is crossed the moment that you start interpreting the framework, guiding control implementation, or advising on readiness. And most of you are already doing this work without realizing it, maybe without scoping it properly, without being educated to deliver it first, without charging for it, but most importantly, without considering the risks and liabilities of doing so. So there are real, clear risks and liabilities of giving this guidance and not doing it properly. So the benefits are clear. This attracts higher value clients. This positions you for a land and expand model. So in a land and expand model, then you stand out from the rest of the crowd. You're not just trying to go out and sell MSP services, and our services are being highly commoditized right now, right? Like, between AI and, shipping over help desk to the Philippines, everyone's trying to race to zero with the costs to deliver IT services. If you're able to lead with consulting services, you have a very different conversation. And then you can sell in compliance services, and then you can expand to MSP services potentially later. It also establishes a high trust relationship with the organization. You're not just a vendor anymore, you become an advisor. It's higher margin than MSP services because you actually don't really need a single tool to deliver the service. MSP services requires a ticketing tool, an RMM tool, security stack, a place to put all of your IT documentation. Like it's a lot in order to deliver MSP services in tool costs and overhead. When you're delivering compliance consulting, there's a lot less overhead. You also have a lot of market differentiation. So instead of just, being a run-of-the-mill MSP, you specialize in a specific market. And I'm sure you've heard before the idea of niches to riches. Like, what do you do for who? If you just say we provide really, responsive IT services that are secure, like you're really, that's what the guy down the street is saying. You don't really specialize in anything. So yeah, this really helps to differentiate yourself in the market of the, tens of thousands of MSPs that are out there because you specialize in a specific market. And the market is large enough for you to be able to focus specifically on delivering compliant MSP services. And if you really do this right and really do this well, the amount of knowledge that you have to gain in order to do that properly will position you to be able to have the right kind of information and knowledge to be able to deliver the compliance consulting. And like IT and security services, they're always going to need you, right? So CMMC is not going away. In fact, this is only going to expand. The federal government is overhauling their compliance requirements across all of the agencies. So DOW/DOD was kind of like the poster child for the CUI program, what it would look like inside of a federal agency. There is a directive for all of the federal agencies to have a CMMC-like program to protect the CUI that they have. So if you get this right and do this really, really well with DoD contractors, you will be able to replicate that service over to the rest of the federal contractors and all other agencies. But it's important for you to understand the risks of doing this before you get all excited and you hop in. When you start doing the consulting, you become responsible for interpretation, not just the execution side. And that interpretation impacts whether or not they pass their assessment. If you don't know what you're talking about, even if you think you know what you're talking about, you can build false confidence and you can totally distort the client's entire compliance journey. I don't know how many companies have ended up on my doorstep in the last 4 months because they thought they were good because their MSP said, "You're good," false confidence. And then we got in there and we're basically starting from zero, like ground level again. And after the years they've been working or thought they were working on CMMC and the hundreds of thousands of dollars they put into either paying an MSP that said they were making them compliant, or changing things in their infrastructure, that bad news of starting from zero again is absolutely demoralizing. Don't be part of the problem. Sometimes you can accidentally substitute yourself for the client's risk ownership. Oftentimes, DIB contractors are looking to be able to abdicate the risk and the program. This program needs executive level sponsorship, and the risk is always owned by the DIB contractor. So don't let yourself get in a situation where a DIB contractor just says, you take care of CMMC for me, and they abdicate that responsibility. They must stay involved. You could also potentially become a bottleneck for forward progress, especially if you don't have a process to follow in order to get them across the finish line and assessed. You can also open yourself up to legal risks, lawsuits. You could end up becoming labeled as a bad egg in the community. And this ecosystem is small. It's intimate. Word travels fast. And you can not only kill your dreams of adding compliance as a service to your offering, but you can also severely damage the MSP side of your business as well if you say you specialize in this and you do not deliver good MSP compliance services and consulting services. So let's take a step back before we get excited and want to jump into this and talk about what's the best way to mitigate that risk. So the first thing I recommend is having at least one CCP on your team. My personal recommendation is that everyone who delivers compliance consulting services at least has a CCP and has been through that class. It does not teach you enough in order to deliver this service well, but that 40 hours of in-classroom training with an awesome trainer is going to fill someone's head with a lot of foundational information really fast and do it better and faster than you can try to train them. And I'm sorry, but the RP and the RPA is simply not good enough. If anyone from the Cyber AB watches this, I'm sorry. I still love you. You're doing a good job. But, this program, that is not good enough. It's kind of a joke that it's even like, that's supposed to say anything about the program. I've met CCPs that don't get the program and they pass the freaking test. The RPA is not good enough. Skip it. Go right to the CCP. You also need to get out behind your desk and get into the community. So mark your calendar today and get your butt to CS5 out in San Diego next month. That's the best way to be able to learn is to get out there, Start networking, talk to the smart people, and hear those thought leaders and their perspective. Learn from them. Another way to make sure you're mitigating risk is do not be the CISO. So sometimes we like to kind of like brand this consulting services as VCIO or VCSO services. I mean, it sounds really cool and it sounds really official, and then maybe you feel like you can charge a lot more for that. But guys, look in the news. Who's the sacrificial lamb in these big organizations every time there is a compromise? It's the CISO. So don't put yourself in that seat of the sacrificial lamb and say you're going to provide vCISO services unless you're willing, of course, to accept all of the risk of that. Also, if you go through an assessment and you are their CISO, that's going to be a very different risk going into a CMMC assessment versus being the compliance consultant. Also, avoid any assessment readiness guarantees. This is why I recommend that you become an RPO. When you become an RPO, you don't get a lot of stuff, guys. Like, hopefully they build that program so it's more than just a $5,000 yearly donation to the Cyber AB. But one of the things that you have to do is you have to sign the code of ethics. That's going to protect you from providing guarantees. So you can say, I am an RPO. So you look legit because you've registered and you are an RPO, registered provider organization. And that code of ethics means you cannot offer any guarantees. And you can tell prospects and clients that when they try to push you to deliver a guarantee. Say, I signed this code of ethics. I'm all legit with being an RPO. I'm not allowed to provide that. But get a little creative and try to figure out some kind of mechanism you can put in place that you will hurt if something goes sideways. That could be, like we're going to make sure it's something you have control over. We're going to get to this point in the program by X date, or, next month is half off or something like that. Be a little bit creative so that you can show them that you've got skin in the game, but stay away from assessment readiness guarantees. Also, guys, please don't fly by the seat of your pants. Like, don't make it up every single time. Don't hop in and try to be like, okay, where are we? Where should we start? Let's write some policies. You need to make sure that you have an actual structured process that you follow to deliver the service. And it's all about the network. It's all about the people that you know. There is absolutely no way that one person can know everything about CMMC. It is just not possible. I've often heard that, like studying for the CISSP, that, the content that you have to study for is a mile wide and an inch deep. Well, welcome to the CMMC program where everything is a mile wide and a mile deep. So you're going to get stuck at one point when you're trying to figure out an answer to a question. And nothing is more powerful than being able to know somebody in your network that you can tap because they specialize in that thing. That's like the most powerful thing. So let's talk about that network that you need. Networking is going to be your most powerful tool. You're not going to know all of the answers. I've been doing this for 7 years, guys, and I still come on situations I've never seen before in a way that we have to apply the controls. And they say, is this compliant? And I have to be like, hang on a moment, let me think about that. And in some cases, I have to reach out and tap my network. Here's a great example. Earlier this week, we had to recover a network from an MSP that went rogue, and the client was a DIB contractor. We had to run some people out to the location a couple hours away, pop in a new firewall, and reestablish control of the network. And they have two radios with a point-to-point between connection between two buildings that are a couple blocks away from each other. We were under duress, so we were just trying to establish control, but we quickly need to figure out how can we make sure that that is compliant, that connection between the two is compliant. There was some advanced networking, and the way that the network was originally configured was not optimal, we'll say. So we needed to figure out what's the best plan of attack. Now, to make sure that everything was going to be right from a FIPS perspective, and making sure we were getting the networking right. My guys are awesome, but they wanted someone to check their work, and we were under duress to be able to get the network back up and restored as fast as possible. So I texted one of my dear friends, C3PAO, and networking extraordinaire, Corinne Wise, and I said, "Girl, I need your help real fast. We're in this situation. Do you have a minute for me?" And because I have that really good, strong connection with her, she's like, "Anything for you." Hopped on a call. It only took us 10 minutes. I only took 10 minutes of her time, but she's busy and backed up, and she could do that for me to validate that we were thinking in the right direction. So when you have those kinds of tight relationships, then you can tap those people when you need them. And then recognize that if you do your due diligence and you are smart, that it's going to come around, right? Like you're going to become a valuable member of the community too. And then people are going to tap you. So that kind of like, be there for when they need something. You just give because you know that there'll be a time when you need help. All right. I also recommend that you make friends with C3POs and assessors. That's going to be really important because you need to have a go-to list for your clients to select from when it's time for assessment. You don't want them to just go out into the marketplace and just select some random organization you have absolutely no relationship with. You don't know how the assessors work. You don't know what kind of approach they have to assessments. You want to like have a relationship beforehand. You want to know how they approach assessments, how they like to see the information presented, making sure you make it as easy as possible to go through that assessment. So, for instance, like we have a list, and in the toolkit, we have a list of C3POs that have reviewed the toolkit content. They understand how the documentation works and, how it relates to each other. They know what to expect. They go on that list, and they've given us tons of feedback about it as well. And we have taken that and made the toolkit better. You also want to make sure that you're linking with those thought leaders. Change your LinkedIn diet. Connect with all of them on LinkedIn. So when you go to LinkedIn, all of their amazing thoughts are just presented to you every single day when you're on there. Learn by osmosis. Go to events to learn, go to events to connect, and go to events to be seen. If you take time out of your busy schedule to show up, that says something about your investment in the community. You also want to join a community that meets regularly and is knowledgeable. I'm a member of the CMMC Industry Standards Council, and then also the CMMC Industry Working Group. Sorry, I think I just said the wrong thing. I'm sorry, CMMC Coalition meeting. And those are really smart people, get together once a week, once every couple of weeks to go over things that are changing, uh, hard topics. And then those are thought leaders that I know I'm going to get good information from. All right, you also need to make sure that you are pricing this right. So if you do this right, the huge is lift. Effort, especially in the beginning, is going to be massive as you're doing the gap assessment and standing up the program. There are going to be times where you do a lot more work, and there are times you're going to be doing a lot less. So I recommend that you normalize the cost to your client by offering a flat rate to include all of your services. And you really need to understand what your true efforts are to do this so you price it correctly. At the beginning, years ago, when I started doing this, I really severely underpriced my services because I give them a lot to make sure we do this right, and it takes a lot of time and effort. Don't be afraid of that number. Like really soberly look at how much time it takes to do this properly. And remember that like if the prospect doesn't balk at that number, you priced it too low. All right. And it doesn't mean that you just go rape them and get whatever, you possibly can. Don't do that. That's not very ethical. But you got to make sure that you're really thinking about the amount of time and effort and you are getting properly compensated for that. especially for the amount of time that you and must put in to increasing your knowledge so that that you can deliver good services. Dan commented, try to know the C3PO strengths, documentation, understanding is so important. Absolutely. Absolutely, Dan. All right. I did say already that you don't need a tool to be able to do this. Okay. Well, here's the one that I would recommend that you actually do employ. You can include this in your offering, or you can just instruct the client to pay for it themselves. And that is a governance risk and compliance tool because with 110 controls and 300 assessment objectives, it's really, really, really hard to track this on spreadsheets. It also allows you to map POAM items just directly to discrete projects. So when you're talking about project planning for remediation, it allows you to link those things very easily so you can see what is the scope of the work without just having to look at like 200 POAM items and be like, what the heck do I do with 200 POAM items? It provides great dashboarding for the clients. So they have visibility on the progress. It helps you generate the SSP. And I do recommend IntelliGRC and FutureFeed. They are purpose-built GRC tools for CMMC, and they offer partner programs. If you're interested in that, you can also just send your clients over there to engage directly. So the other thing you need is a structured and proven process. You start with a gap assessment. You always have to level set. What is the data that we're trying to protect? How does it flow throughout the organization and the business process? Where does it live? Who's allowed to touch it? All those kinds of things. Start with understanding their contractual requirements. So dive into some T&Cs and make sure that you understand like really what's on paper for what you have to do. Identify that FCI and CUI, create a clear POAM based on the CUI and FCI flow, then create discrete remediation projects. So, and then link the POAM items to those for clarity on like from a project perspective, what do we have to do? Because that's what the client wants to understand. Tell me what we have to do. And then build the compliance program, ensure that remediation is happening in parallel, engage a trusted C3PAO, prepare for assessment. And this right here, this is no small undertaking to prepare, making sure all the documentation is right, putting it in PDF format, going through and taking all the screenshots of evidence. This is a huge lift, guys. Then certify. Woo! We're certified. And then continue to provide guidance, support, and facilitate the program over time. So let's quickly dive into a example of this by looking at, let me see if I could pull this over here. Yep, here we go. So this is an example. So state the organization and why they need this consulting in the first place. Why do they need your CMMC compliance consulting? State the case. And then talk about what approach you are using to deliver these services. So right here it says, under this model, companies fall into X levels of security and compliance maturity. So we developed a maturity model for cybersecurity and compliance, and we named it something. It's really helpful because then the organization can self-select, where do I see myself in compliance and security maturity, and where do I want to be? If you can't come up with something yourself, ask ChatGPT to help you ideate, okay? And then name it something. What's your maturity model for cybersecurity and compliance? And then state, this is where they want to be. Explain what your approach is. And then what are you going to scope into your services? So this is what we do. We have that gap assessment because we need that at the beginning to level set. That's a lot that I'm scoping into this agreement at the beginning. That's a huge amount of effort in the beginning. I give them a license to the CMMC IT Documentation Toolkit program. They can buy that directly from me for $6,750, but I throw that into my consulting engagement. We customize the documentation. We review what documentation they already have that we might be able to use in the program. We have bi-weekly program onboard meetings unless they want to go faster. If they want to go faster, we're going to charge more. We manage the POAM down. We make sure the external service provider is ready to be able to present for assessment and also that they're suitable. We write the system security plan. We set up an accountability component for them through risk management meetings. And we help to prepare for and facilitate those quarterly meetings. We build in security assessment throughout the course of those quarterly meetings. So we make sure we get security assessment in there. We'll brief any stakeholders. So say that there's like an executive that like isn't really on board or confused about something, we'll make sure that we set aside time for meetings with them. We prep them for certification and we provide certification assessment support. So we do all of that. We are there with them, holding their hand through the certification. And we'll go toe to toe with the assessors if we feel like they've misinterpreted the controls or are not really understanding our implementation. We require the use of a GRC tool in order to engage our services so that we can actually manage this properly. And then based on the complexity of the engagement and how much work there is to do, we price it. My floor is $3,600 per month. That's for a relatively simple organization who doesn't have a lot of complexity and wants to go with our regular program where we meet every other week after the gap assessment. If they want to go a lot faster, if there's more complexity, then that increases based on the amount of effort. So that's a peek at our program. All right, so let's bring that all together, guys. Decide what you want to deliver. That's your packaging. Ensure you have a proven, clear, and specific way that you're going to deliver it. That's your process. Decide how much you're going to charge, your pricing. Have the resources to deliver it with excellence, your network. Now, the good news is that we've already built the CMMC IT documentation toolkit and coaching program. We have an army of suitable MSPs to empower smart and dedicated people to get and keep DIP contractors CMMC compliant and to enable others on the mission to secure their nation to deliver the most effective and impactful CMMC consulting services. Then you can join that community right now by going to itdoctoolkit.com. But maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe you're like, I'm not really sure about that, Leia, or it costs a lot of money. I get it. So if you want, we're going to give you a copy of our CMMC compliance management proposal template so that you can take a look at some ideas for how to package your program and ideas around how to build those processes. All that's available inside of the toolkit. But, if you want to build it on your own, go ahead and email info@compliancyit.io with the subject, send me my copy. And the great and wonderful Haley will shoot that over to you right away. All right, so if you're along for the ride in the series, next, we're going to be doing the NIST 100-171 Revision 3 gotchas. Some important things that are going to come up in Rev 3 that you need to be thinking about now as you are giving both your compliance consulting and also delivering your MSP services. There are some things in Rev 3 that you're going to end up redoing if you're not thinking about it the right way right now. And then the proven process for compliant MSP service delivery. So today about compliance consulting, but if you are not delivering the right kind of compliant MSP services, you're going to get fired. It's going to happen. And again, you don't have to wait to join the community. You can do that right now at itdoctoolkit.com. All right, we can entertain any questions. Shots fired. Ah, I missed what that was referring to. That sounds fun though. Julie says, I'm a CCP and will be a CCA by Monday. I've done 8 implementation projects. Let's connect. Woo! Yeah, Julie, let's connect. Um, Wonder who you took for those CCP and CCA. If you guys are thinking about doing that because you haven't taken the class yet, I highly recommend training with Edwards Performance Solutions. Karen Wise, I think Dan's on here. Dan, I think you also provide a class. If you're still, I don't know if you're still training, you might not be focusing on that anymore. Edwards, good choice, Julie. And there is no CMMC in Canada yet. Where does this land for us? So if you're in Canada, if you have any American clients, then that might impact you. Um, you might have Canadian companies that have US contracts to fulfill, and they might have a CMMC compliance requirement because they are engaged in America's DoD supply chain. But CMMC is coming to Canada. It's under a different program name. It's a copy paste. So basically, it's the whole same thing, and it's going to happen in Canada. That's coming very soon. Um, all right, Dan's just doing assessments in MSP consulting. And the address for the template we talked about, I'll go back to that page, just info at, there you go, info at. Okay. All right. So mark your calendars for CS5 next month in San Diego. That's hosted by the Cyber AB, Future Feed, and Summit 7. Um, Grab your copy of the Compliance Program Management Services template so you can dig in and try to see how to build that offering. And consider joining the community. We're growing. We don't just allow anyone in, by the way. There is a screening process to make sure that you're legit, that you're willing to do the study and the hard work, and that you're going to deliver good services. We don't license the toolkit or open the community to people who are not going to do good things with it, or not be a benefit to the community. Daryl says CMMC, CISM, CMM, CISP, and CCP, lots of potential programs to study. They all have different purposes, but could you give your thoughts? Yeah, so CMMC is about securing and protecting information. It's also a program that requires official assessment. So I find the most value from, like, if you're not, like, aside from the CCP, which I recommend everybody takes, I would look at, if you're looking at another certification, this is, like, again, mostly on the study side, so you can get the knowledge, not just get like letters behind your name. CISM, Certified Information Security Manager, very, very valuable in this area. And CISA, because the CISA is about assessing, and then it helps you kind of put your brain in the assessment audit mindset, which is helpful when you're building the program because you have to build it to be auditable. And Tim sent us a link to the joint certification program. This might be something that your clients have talked about before, the JCP. This is a great place for some information here, especially if your clients ask about it. Dana asks, how do we join the community? You go to www.itdoctoolkit.com right here. And then we actually have a special code that you can get it all at a deep discount. You can get $1,000 off the toolkit license for unlimited uses and $200 off the monthly community. And if you email info at, we can shoot you that code so you can take advantage of that offer. It's a limited time offer just till the end of April or March. We're in March, guys. So end of March. All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you all for coming today. Most important thing that I want everyone to leave here with is to make sure that whatever you're doing, that you're making sure that it is the right guidance that you're delivering, and you're really truly helping get get the support of a community to make sure you're doing the right thing. Um, I think it's criminal, the MSPs and the consultants that I've seen deliver services, and whether or not they thought they were doing the right thing, I can't verify. What I can verify is that they were configuring things improperly. They were not documenting, and they didn't know what they were talking about because they didn't understand the freaking controls. And DIB contractors, like small businesses, have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as a fellow business owner, that personally hurts my heart. So when you decide that you want to commit to this, do it right or don't do it at all. And that's what I'm leaving everyone for. Have an awesome weekend. Hope to see you on the community. Certainly see you around LinkedIn. Everyone, go do good things. Bye.